Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of our weekly coaching webinar. We got a powerful webinar today. I got a lot of stuff to go over. One of the biggest, most complete webinars I've done in a while. So I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping stuff, then we'll jump in. Don't forget, everybody, if you haven't already, to like us on Facebook. Again, I don't do this as shameless self-promotion. I'm only doing it because I think we're doing things in a way that you could get some good ideas. You could mimic these things that we're doing. Things like this are images that we're having created. You can easily click them, download them, use them for yourself. So there's a lot of very unique content that we're putting on here relating to business credit and financing that you could use in blogs and your articles and emails you're creating, as well as for your own social media. So this is steal and deploy kind of stuff. You come to our site, you take a look, you find the stuff you like, you steal it, you deploy it. Now, some of the stuff you already have, some of the smaller posts like this you already have. There's a lot of brand new stuff we're doing, like image posts, interesting facts, longer posts with more information on them that I think you're really going to like. So this kind of gives you something to use as an example to follow on your own. You'll also see we're now posting 5 to 10 times a day. So these are some new things that we've been trying and getting very good results. I recommend you check it out. Also, if you're not part of our exclusive Facebook group, make sure that you go ahead and send me your email address. I need your Facebook email address, and if you email that to me, we will invite you to the group and you can converse with everybody else, or with a lot of the other people out there, the other partners that are offering business credit. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in today. We're going to go ahead and get everything started, and we got a lot of stuff to go through, so let me go ahead and get this going. Okay. So a lot of stuff to get into today. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the closing process. Now, here's how this works. If you haven't been with us the last 2 weeks, go back and check out the last 2 weeks webinar. What we've basically done is dissect a sales process. Step 1, a good interview, ask the right questions, gather intelligence, get them into a presentation was the week that we did 2 weeks ago, was the presentation we did 2 weeks ago. Last week was all about presenting, what you should say during a presentation, how you walk through somebody through a presentation, how you get them into a presentation. And today is going to be all about closing. We're going to be diving in, getting really good information about closing. Now, a lot of the information I'm getting you comes from a couple different sources. First, one of the sources is Jordan Belfort. You've heard me mention him before. When it comes to sales practices, when it comes to scripting, when it comes to closing, I believe he has the most effective system that I've ever seen, and I am constantly participating, listening in on such people. I was actually out with Dave Freeze this last week. I was out with him all week for 4 days at his mastermind. If you're familiar with our boot camps, you probably are familiar with Dave Freeze. So I'm constantly surrounding myself by really smart people that know and are very good at what they do. And in all the experts I've ever seen with sales scripting, Jordan really is one of the best out there. So if you haven't looked into or bought his straight line system, I recommend you do. It's well worth it. I've been through it about 5 times now, and a lot of the ideas you're going to get today come from that. And they also come from a lot of other different sources, including NLP. So if you're a fan at all, as I am, of neuro-linguistic programming, then you'll see a lot of these things mentioned here. This is great stuff. So if you want good content to read, a good audio book, I really recommend you jump into some NLP. There's a great book out there called, I think, Introduction to NLP that's amazing. There's a lot of good stuff you can get that will help you in your business life and your personal life. So I just wanted to get that out there because I want to give credit where credit is due. And a lot of these concepts, some of them are mine, some of them I've acquired from other sources, and a lot of them will come from those two sources just so you can get an idea of content. So let's dive in. So there's a 4-step sales prospect. First of all, prospecting, okay, actually getting the customer themselves, interviewing, which is what we actually talked about the other day, is actually how to interview, how to ask the right questions, how to gather intelligence. The next part that you're looking at is the actual presentation, which is what we went over last week, and then the actual close. And I think if you dissect your sales process into these 4 different stages, it'll help you better kind of get good in these different areas. How to prospect, how you should interview, how you should present, how you should close the actual sale. So how you close the sale is where we are today. And one of the first things I want to bring up is you've got to ask them to buy. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of salespeople never ask for the sale. They get to the point where it comes time to ask for money and they get nervous. And this is one of the reasons I recommend that you record sales presentations for your salespeople, because if they're not closing, you'd be surprised statistically at how many of them aren't closing because they're never even asking for the money or the sale. It's one of the essential things that you need to make sure you're doing. So there's a good way here to get into and ask somebody for the actual sale, some variation of what I'm telling you here. So this is kind of how I would do it and how I've done it in the past, testing and found the best success. Mr. Customer, as you've seen, the Business Finance Suite's the most comprehensive credit and financial solution in the world today, and absolutely perfect for your business. Now, this would obviously be after a presentation. So I would basically be done with the presentation, leave it up on your screen or not, whatever you choose to do, or leave it up while you're talking to them if you're face-to-face. And I would come up with something like this, a summary of what they just saw, because at this point they've already seen the real physical presentation. So now you're coming in and saying, listen, Mr. Customer, as you've seen, this is the most comprehensive financial solution, credit solution available in the world, and most importantly, it's perfect. And you're going to stress that word. It's perfect for your business. By now, you know that. You did a proper interview. You asked the right questions. You got the right intelligence. You went in and presented to them uniquely based on the information you got, relating how it's perfect for them. So now you're telling them, hey, look, you saw it, best solution in the world for this. It's absolutely perfect for your business. So if you were to visit my website today and you could get started for one payment of $3,495. Now, please note, I don't know what your prices are. They're different for everybody. I'm just throwing out numbers. You'd want to put your own number in there. Also keep in mind, this will be available for playback. So if you can't write all of this down, don't worry. We've got a lot of stuff to go through today. Okay, but you'll be able to access this probably as soon as tonight to write anything down that you missed. Okay, so if you were to visit my website today, you can get started for one payment of $34.95. But since I know this is so perfect for your business, and because I found that those willing to take action quickly get the best and fastest results, now I'll help you get started today for only one payment of $24.95. So are you thinking about getting started with one payment or monthly payments? This is a very, very good trial close. And that's what you're doing here. In reality, you are not expecting them to close here. They probably won't. They're probably still going to have objections. And this is one of the things I've learned about the sales process. Don't ask for the sale and then tell you no or have an objection and you go, oh man, and be disappointed. Expect it. Expect that you're going to have objections and questions. These are good. These are signs that somebody's very interested, and there's a good possibility that in your presentation alone, there's just not enough for them to lock down and close. So expect them to not close here. This is why I'm telling you this is a trial close. So let's dissect this. If you're to visit my website today, it's normally this price. But since I know it's perfect for your business, so again, you're reiterating that this is perfect for them. And I found that those willing to take action quickly get the best and fastest results. So now what you're telling them is, look, if you're ready to get going on this now, I found historically that those people get the best and fastest results. Well, who wouldn't want that? Everybody wants to have the best results, the fastest results. So you're basically telling them by getting going now, you're going to be one of those people that's getting the best and fastest results. And you're also telling them, I'll help you get started today for only, stressing it, this is a minimizer, so you're minimizing the price, one payment of $24.95. You might even want to expand that. That's like 25 or it's like 30% discount. Are you thinking about getting started with one payment or monthly payments? This is called an assumed close. You're assuming they're going to close here. You're just giving them a choice. Look, Mr. Customer, I already know you're going to close, so what do you want to do? One payment or monthly payments? Now, this is a very interesting statement because it opens the door for them to either close, well, I'm thinking about getting going with one payment. Perfect. Let's get you going right now. It's just a matter of a little bit of information and we can get you started and get your access today. So you're closed. Or they might say, well, what are the monthly payments? Boom. Now you have a cost issue, an affordability issue. So just by them asking further, what are the monthly payments, you know they're interested, they like it, they probably want to buy it. Now it's just a matter of them in their mind figuring out that it's affordable for them. So this is a really good trial close because you're hitting all the marks. It's perfect for you. People that get going now get the best results. And you're getting a huge discount today. Okay, and usually I would say tell them today. If you get started today, you get this discount. Now you've created urgency, then you come in with a simple trial close. A very good way to get them to close. But guess what? They don't close. They have objections. So congratulations. Okay, this means that you did an amazing presentation because they are interested. Okay, if they weren't still interested, they wouldn't be asking you questions. So the fact that they have questions or objections, which just to be clear, in my mind, they're one and the same. If somebody's asking you a question, they really have an objection that they are reframing in the sense of a question. Very few people will say, I have an objection. I actually did that once to somebody. They got completely angry at me. I never talked to them again. Phrased my question as an objection. So most people, just because of wanting to avoid conflict, will not tell you I have an objection, right? But they're going to say I have a question. So questions usually are objections. And if they have questions, then great job. That means they're interested. Okay, these are buying signal. The sale is truly closed or lost here during this objection phase. So you have to go into this knowing that this is where the close begins. The trial close was just to test the water. The minute they first ask the question or have out their first objection, this is where the sale begins. Now, a lot of people give up here. They're like, oh, the guy said no. The guy said he's got to talk to his wife. The guy said, no, 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 no. This is where the close begins, not ends, when they have their first objection or question. So how do you overcome these objections? Well, for the finance suite, there's two main ones you're going to run into that we found with thousands and thousands of sales. Affordability. Can somebody afford it or not? Well, you're usually going to get this objection out right away when you say, do you want one payment or monthly payments? If they like it and they know they can't afford it, you've given them a viable choice. So they're not going to say, well, I want one payment when they know they can't afford the one payment. Instead, they're going to be very inclined to say, well, what are the monthly payments? And right then and there, you've dug out an affordability objection. The other, and also in the interview, you should have dug this out. If you go back to 2 weeks ago where we did the intelligence gathering, we had questions about their bank account balance, their credit cards, that were perfectly phrased in a way where it was accepted by them. And if you've asked those questions, before you even went into the presentation, you know if they have money. Okay, but even if you don't, asking them that trial close question of monthly payments or one payments helps you dig this out. Credibility. There's a lot of things we've done to help you build credibility. We've given you testimonials. We've given you articles and press releases you could post online. Okay, if you, I don't know why I have Credit Repair Services advance fee on the BBB, but BBB, book and radio show. Okay, I've helped you with all this, given you testimonials, given you articles, given you press releases, given you ready to publish books for a reason, because I know credibility is one of the biggest objections. So my recommendation is always to have a credibility page on your website that has everything, has the testimonials listed, has links to articles you published, links to press releases, a link where they can buy your book. Okay, I learned this in the credit repair business where people didn't think credit repair worked. They were skeptical. So I would send them a link to my credibility page that immediately squashed credibility. Like within 15 seconds, you couldn't think I wasn't credible anymore. You found article after article after article I'd published, press releases about me, press releases about the company, real results, testimonials. It was so overwhelming that somebody couldn't be there for more than 1 or 2 minutes and walk away feeling I was anything other than completely credible. So I recommend putting a page up on your credibility page up to help you overcome that objection if you can't get the sale closed in this first setting. So keep your good ammunition till the end. What I mean here is this. I've already told you the close doesn't even begin until you get to the objection phase. So this means that you need to be armed and ready for battle. This is why in this phase, you want to come into this phase with some of your best ammunition you have ready to go. Don't lay out all the features and benefits before closing. Don't tell them everything there is to say, because then when they have a question or objection, you're just answering their question or objection instead of continuing to add more value. This is the point where you say, look, Mr. Customer, I understand you feel this way, but A, B, C, D, and all of a sudden you just get a cascading effect of additional benefits that overwhelm them so much that it tips the scale of risk in their mind and they want to buy. So don't use all of your points before you get to the end, such as the guarantee. the payments that you can offer in payments, the funding advisor for 5 years, the no personal guarantee on business credit, and so on and so on. You choose as part of your presentation which features and benefits you don't want to mention till the end. Some people might not even want to mention that they get a business advisor till this point. You might not want to mention that they get a finance officer till this point. You might not want to mention that they get the finance officer for 5 years to this point. There's no freaking way you should mention the guarantee before this point. No personal guarantee on business credit? Possibly. Time frames for building business credit? Possibly here. So there's a lot of benefits you can leave out of the presentation, saving it until the end to actually close the sale. So I don't know why I have step 5, but we will just act like you don't even see that. So you got to create urgency. Introduce an expiring price point that expires today. We talked about this. Okay, Ehab Sheffic has been one of our top reselling clients. Okay, in a call center environment, has always done a ton of sales. His expiring price point expires today. Look, the people that take action quickly are the ones that are the best and fastest results. So if you're ready to get started today, I'll give it to you for this. Create urgency. Possibly introduce payment options that expire today. So when you're doing that trial close, you can say, look, only through today you have this option. Affordability, credibility, 2 main objections. We already talked about that. Offer them a weekly payment option or even ask them flat out what they can afford. Okay, this is a great way to go. If people aren't buying because they can't afford it, that means your payments are too high. The easiest way to overcome this is this simple little twist that we've discovered. And the twist is this. Offer them payments weekly versus monthly. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you come up to me and say something is $600 a month, my brain immediately goes, what else can I buy for $600 a month? But if you say to me it's $150 a week, then the first thing I think about is, well, that's nothing. I can easily do $150 a week. It's just perception. And almost any business owner is going to look at a smaller weekly figure as, that's easy. I can do that, versus a larger monthly figure where their brains immediately go to what else can I get for that same amount of money. Remember, upon your interview, you already asked about money in the bank account and money on credit cards. So you should already know now about what kind of money they're dealing with if you've done a proper interview. So there's 3 musts of closing any single sale. And here's the beauty of this. If you get these 3 things right, you're going to close almost any sale that you have. And you don't have to have the person have all 3 of these things in their mind as a 10 to close for much longer than a minute or 2. You just need them to be a 10 in their mind in these 3 areas, and then you get them to a point where you can actually close the sale. So answering objections using the 3 10s looping philosophy. So here's how it goes. At any point in time, they need to think you are a credible, honorable 10. They need to think your company is a credible, honorable 10. They need to think the business finance suite, the product you're selling, is a 10. It's absolutely amazing, greatest thing since sliced bread. You get them to a point in time, for even seconds or a minute, where they think you're a 10, your company and the product are a 10, you can close them. Okay, most of the best sales points you'll make will be made here because this is the ammunition you're using to get them to a 10 across the board in all levels. So if you get to 10 with all 3, in that moment you can close. You don't need to keep them there. You get them there, you circle back and ask for the sale. Every time you do 10, 10, 10, you get them back and ask for the sale till you get them to a moment where in their mind they're not an 8 for you and a 7 for the company and a 10 for the product. They're a 10, 10, 10, then you can close. So the first 10 is you. They are your product. Let me start with that. They've got to love your product. The client has to love the finance suite. They have to feel that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They need to feel it can truly help them reach their goals. Remember, that's why at this point they're still talking to you. If you've done what we've talked about the last 2 weeks, you've built rapport, you've built credibility, and they see you as an expert. And what is an expert? Someone that can help them accomplish their goals. So now they've had a chance to see firsthand that the system can help them accomplish their goals. They need to know that it empowers them, that it gives them the ability to accomplish their dreams, the things they want to do for their life, their family, their business. They need to feel that it's easy for them to use. This is why people fail that do presentations without showing the finance suite. The finance suite does so much that if you were to explain it to somebody, it's complicated, it's confusing. But if you show them what it does and they see how easy and streamlined it is, then they know it's easy to use, and you've taken this complicated process of getting money and credit for a business, you've simplified it, and now they're graciously wanting to buy because they feel that it's easy for them to use. They must feel that it can deliver them their expected results. That's what it's all about. What will this do for me? Remember, people don't care about the features and benefits of the system. This is why you can't send them some video I've done that talks about features and benefits. That's worthless to them. It's crap. What they need to know is they need to know, what will this do for me? Now at this point, you gathered intelligence, you presented and tied what their interest pain points are to the finance suite, how it can solve that. So now they need to feel that this system actually delivers them their expected results. And if they do this, then it's easy for them to love the product and get to a 10 level. But they also need to love you. They have to love you. They have to trust you. You have to be in rapport with them. And in rapport means a lot of things that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes and that we went over a couple weeks ago when we talked about actually interviewing and getting intelligence. But they must trust you. They must be in rapport with you. They must feel like you're like them, that you have their best interest at heart. They also must feel that you care. Remember, I've said this before. The secrets to closing is they have to feel that you are just like them and that you care. If you accomplish nothing else other than those two things, you have a legitimate shot of getting this deal closed. But that has to do with tonality, with setting them up with the right wording, and a lot of things we talked about in the initial intake interview process a couple weeks ago, and things we're still going to talk about today. They need to feel that you have their best interest at heart, not that you're just trying to make a sale. No one wants to be sold. No one likes to deal with a salesman that's just trying to sell them. And you know these people. These people say, hey, how are you? What's going on? What do you like to do? You go fishing? That's cool. I fish too. This product is so perfect for you. It's awesome. Well, how can they tell you that if they never asked about you? Somebody that really cares about you, spends time with you, gets to know you, relates benefits to what you can actually do. So that being said, you can do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're in rapport with them, that they trust you, that they feel that you care and that you are just like them. They've got to also love your company. The client has to love your company. They need to trust your company. They must see your company as credible and it has a good reputation, not a bad reputation. They don't want to deal with somebody they type in Google and they're seeing ripoffreport.com and BBB complaints. That's not what they want. They want to deal with the credible company. They need to feel that your company has their best interest at heart. They need to feel that the company isn't money hungry, but legitimately trying to help them. Okay, so everyone you speak with will have limiting buying beliefs also. So this is all part of it, okay? It's all part of it to know that there's three things you got to accomplish, and this is an absolute must. They have to love you, they have to love your company, they have to love the product. And at any point in time, they have to be at a 10 level with all three of those in order for you to be able to close the sale. But you also need to overcome their limiting buying beliefs, and that's part of getting them to a 10 across the board. Everyone you speak with has these limiting buying beliefs. They're created from bad perceptions and experiences that we've all had in the past. Okay, everyone's made a purchase that they regretted. Think about that for a moment. Think about when you last bought something that you really regretted, that you felt like a fool, that you were embarrassed to even tell people the story of what had happened because you made a mistake. You got sold. You got wamboozled. You got screwed over. However you want to put it, it went bad. Well, when people buy, that's the film that's running in their head. Like they have these movies running in their head, and it's all the bad crap that can happen to them by buying. And those are all created by limiting buying beliefs. Okay, so when they buy now, they think back to all those past experiences. And this stems all the way back to the caveman days. It really does. Whereas you make this decision, it's a bad choice, you're done. Okay, and a perfect example is you got Jim, Bob, and Tom in the cave, and Jim's the guy that goes out and gets food, and guess what? Jim doesn't come back. Well, Bob and Tom, the next week, it's Bob's turn to go get food, and he's thinking about how Jim didn't come back, and that's at the forefront of his mind. It really goes back all the way of, if I make this decision, what negative things are going to happen? What backlash is going to happen? What are all the bad things that are going to happen? So you're talking to them about all the good stuff, and in their mind, they're running a movie of all the bad stuff. Don't neglect that. Don't forget that that's happening. So prospects are running this internal dialogue in their heads about all these bad things that can happen. What will my spouse say if this fails? What will I look like a fool if this doesn't work out? Is this a safe transaction? What do I stand to lose? How embarrassed will I be in front of my partners and team if I make a bad choice here? What if I pay thousands and get nothing? Can I really even afford this? You're talking to them, and this is what's going on in their head. They got this whole movie playing out in their head of all this bad stuff that could happen, all these questions being asked. Am I going to look like a fool? Am I going to look like an idiot? Am I going to regret this for the rest of my life because I did this? Can I even afford this? Should this be money that I'm spending? All of these things are going through their head based on what's happened to them in past experiences. So you got to control this internal dialogue to make the sale. You won't know exactly what their beliefs are or their internal communication. You're not going to know what film this is that's running in their head. So to overcome these beliefs, you need to create an airtight emotional case. Because people buy based on emotions. You've heard this before. People buy based on emotions, but also people buy based on logic. What happens is they buy because they emotionally want it, and then they justify it logically in their minds. So you've got to create an airtight emotional case and an airtight logical case to close the deal. If you do this, they close. If they emotionally want it, they're emotionally involved, you create an airtight emotional case and an airtight logical case, then you legitimately have the best chance of closing. So I've heard people say before, well, hey, listen, it's a logic. People buy strictly based on emotion. That's not true. They want it based on emotion. They justify it based on logic. So you got to hit both of these to be able to close that deal. Now, customers must feel that they're making a great decision. They got to feel that they have more to lose by not buying than buying. And the easiest way to do this is think about a teeter-totter. Okay, think about, a fulcrum of the level. Okay, and on one side you have all the reasons they should buy, and on the other side they have all the bad things that are going to happen if they don't buy. And on the other end of this teeter-totter, they have all the good things that are going to happen if they buy. So what happens is through the presentation, this is leveling back and forth. They hear good points, and then all of a sudden say, oh, there's a lot of good stuff. Then this movie runs in their head, and then the bad part goes up. So what has to happen is this teeter-totter has to tip in a way where they feel that they have more to lose by not buying than actually buying. And that is when you'll actually buy. Now, I have a perfect example of this. Okay, I was turned on to a guy named Ryan Dice, an online marketer, a month and a half ago. And I got invited to one of his webinars for something that seemed interesting. Now, I understand this webinar. This webinar style was done by Frank Kern. I've done my own. He's another marketer. It was done verbatim as Frank lays out. I knew what was going down. But at the end of this thing, I loved what he had. I wanted it desperately. But it was like thousands of dollars. So I wasn't sure if I was willing to invest. I kind of had this going back and forth in my mind. And then he did his job as an online marketer. Sent me more and more emails. Hey, it's done. It's over. Tomorrow, I'm closing this down. Nobody else can get in on this thing. And all of a sudden, I was done. I tipped over to the fact that it was going to hurt me more by not having this than having it, and I bought right away. So this is really how we all make decisions. It's just a matter of when we cross this threshold of knowing we have more to lose by not buying than actually buying. Limiting borrowing beliefs are caused by bad past experiences, being burned before, cost, okay, afraid to make a bad decision, These are really the fundamental. There's a lot of things that cause limiting buying beliefs, but it's usually based on one of these type things. Something that's bad that's happened before. They got burned, they got screwed over, they got duped. The cost maybe is stressful for them to think about spending that kind of money, and they're afraid to make a bad decision. So tonality is vital in all of this that I'm teaching you. Okay, proper tonality is essential to closing the sale. Your tone has got to reflect that you care. Okay, some important tonalities to remember. I'm not going to dissect tonality today because, again, we talked about tonality 2 weeks ago when we talked about how to build rapport, how to interview, how to gather intelligence. But what I do want to do today is dive in and teach you some important tonalities that you should remember. Scarcity secret. When somebody gets a little bit quiet, leans in a little, that's usually reflective that they're talking about something that's scarce, something that's important, something you should pay attention to. Okay, and this is what happens. If I take my tonality from talking like this, and I'm talking louder and faster, and then I lean into you and say, listen, this is what's important. This is what you need to know. You're instantly interested because I just took it down 3 tones and started talking quiet and slowly. This is a tonality of scarcity, secrecy. Use it as a weapon. Okay, certainty. Okay, look, of course this is going to work for you. Type of certainty. Look, when you have this and you've had the finance suite for 3 months and you already got $50,000, you're not going to be thinking about whether or not you should have bought it. Am I right? That's certainty. Like, it's a no-brainer. Of course, it's a no-brainer. You're not saying it's a no-brainer. You're saying it in your tonality. Look, if you had this 3 months ago, okay, and you already got $50,000, you wouldn't be saying, let me think about it. Am I right? Am I right? That's certainty. That's a tonality of certainty. Disarming, like, hey, no big deal. No big deal. Don't worry about it. So hey, let me just ask you a quick question about your bank account so I can know, like, what kind of financing you can get relating to your bank account. No big deal. No big deal. So that's a disarming tone. Like, hey, don't worry about it. No big deal. You're not going to say the words no big deal because to them it might be a big deal. Okay, but in your mind or by changing your tonality, their subconscious immediately says, okay, no big deal. Because your tonality is like, hey, don't worry about it. Just no big deal. Just real quick, just want to ask you some questions real quick. No big deal. Okay, so disarming tone is a toning of no big deal without saying those actual words. So that gives you a little bit of some power tonalities that will help you close. Because keep in mind, 80-90% of communication has nothing to do with the words. Like less than 10% of the wording has anything to do with what's really taking place. The rest has to do with tonality, and it also has to do with body language. So if you're not in front of them, it all comes down to tonality. So pacing and leading from NLP. Make sure from the beginning you're using similar wording and tonality as they are. This is called pacing. Now, you've probably heard this before, but when I hear it, it's rarely ever defined. Like, people don't explain what it actually means. So I'm going to tell you what it means. Pacing means you're pacing them at their tone, at their volume level. You've been there before. You get somebody on the phone, and their volume and speed of talking is completely different than you. Obviously, in my world, I deal with that all the time. There's not a lot of people that speak as loud and fast as I do. It's just my natural tone. But when I get an 80-year-old woman on the phone and she's talking quiet and slow, I can't be like, I'll lose her instantly. So part of us being in rapport is you've got to pace them. You got to bring yourself to their tone, to their volume of language. Then gradually lead them into your comfort tonality. Leading, pacing, and leading. So you start at your tone, at their tone, and their volume, and then you eventually gradually go to where you're comfortable, and they'll typically follow you in the conversation. You want to match their tone and pacing. Then you also want, and this is called matching and mirroring, something you also hear a lot of, which comes from neuro-linguistic programming. So matching their tone and pacing them. That's exactly really what this is when we talk about pacing and leading, you're really matching them. That's what pacing is. You're matching what they're doing. Mirroring is really doing exactly what they're doing. You're sitting face to face, they cross their leg. A few seconds later, you cross your leg. You're not making it look obvious. They're just making simple gestures, and once in a while, you mimic one of their gestures. This is called mirroring. Okay, so mirroring their actions and sometimes mirroring their words, that helps also. These are psychological ways to get in rapport with somebody. Pacing them, then leading them along to your tonality, to your level. Matching them, mirroring them. These are ways psychologically, subconsciously to get people into rapport. This stuff doesn't happen in a conscious level. Their brain feels more connected to you when you're vibrating at their level of energy. And that's done by pacing, leading, matching, and mirroring. So, overcoming objections. I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. So here's some good ways to intro in to overcoming an objection or question. So they've asked a question, and now here's some things that you're going to be able to use, some exact verbiage you could use, and I mean exact, to help lead in to your strengths. Remember, you're always going to come back and get yourself into a 310, your company into 310, and the product into a 310. I'll explain that in a minute. But some of the ways you're going to answer their questions or objections are like this. Look, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Or I hear what you're saying, but let me say this. Another one is, does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? That's a good one. That's a very good first one to start with. They come out with a question, an objection, say, look, Mr. Customer, does the idea of getting business credit in your financing make sense to you? I mean, do you like that idea? Well, that's kind of a no-brainer. Of course, they're going to say yes, and then you can roll right into answering their question, objection, and giving a 10 for all of them. Here's another one. Okay, do you like the idea? Yeah, I do. Okay, exactly. So let me say this. Not say thins. I don't know why I threw an N in there. Exactly. So let me say this. The true beauty of the finance suite is that you get access to business credit and financing. It's the only system in the world that helps you build your corporate credit to get you credit and help you get better interest rates terms on your financing long term, and also get you money right away. Okay, so for example, that's exactly how you do it. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? Yeah, I think it makes sense. Exactly. So let me say this. The true beauty of the finance suite is A. So these are good ways to initially answer a question and objection. Present facts about you, your company, or present facts about you, your company, and the product. And this is how you answer every single question. When they ask you a question, you think of it as an objection, you answer their question, and then you come in and say something about you, something about your company, and something about the product. Let me give you an example. Mr. Customer, does the idea of this finance suite make sense to you? I mean, getting credit and money for your business, do you like that idea? Yes, you do? Well, perfect. You can say exactly or perfect. Well, perfect. So let me say this. The true beauty of the finance suite is that it gives you business credit and financing for your business. You get both. So you get a build a credit profile, which helps you remove the liability from your personal stuff, as we talked about, and you also get to get financing for your business right away. Okay. Plus, my business relies on referrals. Like, I'm not going to get rich on this transaction. I need you to love this, it work for you, and refer business. That's how I grow my business, and I want to make sure that you're dealing with the most reputable company out there, which is what we are. As a matter of fact, if you looked right now, you'd see there's no complaints about us anywhere. Not with the Secretary of State, the BBB, or any place else you might find online. So look, getting you started is just a matter of, I don't know, a little bit of information we can have you set up today. Sound fair enough? That's it. That is a close. Okay. They asked question, they asked objection, and then I start with, does the idea make sense? Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, the true beauty is here, 10 for product. Here's a benefit of me. Here's a benefit of my company to get him to a 10 across the board. And now I take another attempt to close. Look, it's just a matter of a little bit of information. We can get you started right now. Sound fair enough? And that's how you close. So then you're asking for the sale again, which is what I just did. Now make a metaphor is another way. And I'm teaching you several closing techniques here, actual techniques you could use to really close. So make a metaphor that the prospect has to say yes. Okay, hey, look, if we met 6 months ago and you'd already got $50,000 in funding and credit, would you be saying, let me think about it? You wouldn't be saying, let me think about it, am I right? Now, you can use a lot of things here. It doesn't just have to be this objection of let me think about it, or I'm not sure if this works for me. There's a lot of things you could do here. So the bottom line is, if we met 6 months ago and you'd already received $50,000 in funding and credit, you wouldn't be saying, let me think about it, am I right? Or you wouldn't be saying, I don't know if this is going to work for me, am I right? Or you wouldn't be saying, I don't want to make a bad decision, am I right? You could fill in a lot of different things there. Exactly. But let's cut to the heart of the matter. You don't know, and trust me. So let me address that. Look, nobody is going to say to you, look, I want to buy this, but I don't trust you. Like that's insulting. Very few people on this earth would say such a thing to you. So this is a good way to address that objection head on and say, look, let's cut to the heart of the matter. Let's not mess around. Okay, let's not sugarcoat this. You don't know and trust me. Or you could even say, you don't know me, maybe you don't even trust me. So let me address that. Okay, next tell them the credible things about you. 10 10-10. Look, Mr. Customer, all I do is help business owners succeed. This is my passion. This is what makes me hungry. It's why I get up in the morning, is to watch people like you that haven't had a fair shake get the fair shake you deserve, get the money you need to grow. And by the way, my company, if you look, we're one of the leading companies online in this space. And the product, well, our finance officers will help you get money for 5 years. So just think about this. 3 years from now, when you need more money, you pick up the phone, you call the finance officer, they help develop a finance blueprint and get you even more money. This is how it goes. So you answer the objection, and then you come back with the 3 tenths. And this is a great way to overcome objection. Look, future pace. If we met 6 months ago and you already had the result, then you wouldn't be saying, let me think about it. Am I right? Yes. Well, the problem is you don't have enough trust and rapport here to know that's going to happen. So let me address that. Let me tell you about me, my company, and the product. Okay, and then again, you ask for the sale. And remember, all of these end with the same thing. Repeat the 3 tenths, and then ask for the sale. So another one, deflect. I hear what you're saying, and then go back into the looping process again. Start reselling yourself, the company. This time bring it all in heavy artillery. So this might be your 3rd loop. So, and I'll address what looping is here in a minute. But this is what you're doing, is you're looping back. So you've already told them why they should trust you, the company, and you've already told them why they should trust the product. But every time they have a question and objection, you loop back to tell them more about you, the product, and your company. So that way you're coming in and making sure they get into a 10 to close the sale. This is why we call it looping. You're looping back. Okay, so listen, I hear what you're saying is a great way to get in and answer that objection and question. Well, how do I know if this is really going to work? Look, I hear what you're saying, but let me say this. So that's a good way to actually get into one of those things and address their objection and loop back with 3 tenths. Tailor to the objection and acknowledge it. Okay, tailor your close to the objection. So remember, your close is to tailor into that. If their objection is, that they're whatever, that, they can't afford it, then you're not going to say something that's completely opposite. You've got to make sure at this point that whatever you're saying, like for example, if you're saying something about if we met 6 months ago, then you need to make sure it tailors into what their actual objection is. So here's an example. Believe me, all I ask is when, and this is a great final close. This is a great final 3rd or 4th loop that you're using to actually close the sale, where you're whipping out all your heavy artillery of credible points about you, the actual product, and your company. And here's a great final close. Believe me, all I ask is when you get your first X amount in financing, it could be 20, 50, whatever. First 20 grand in financing and start making more revenues as a result, go buy your wife a little present because I'm sure she deserves it. Sound fair enough? Now this might not be a final close. This is a good close if they use that I need to talk to my partner. I need to talk to my spouse objection, right? We've all dealt with that before, and we're like, do they really need to talk to their spouse or partner, or are they just making that up? We don't really know if they are or not. There's no way of knowing, but this is a great way to come back and combat that. Believe me, all I ask is when you make your first $20,000 in financing and start making more revenue as a result for your business, go buy your wife, go buy your partner a little present because I'm sure she deserves it. Sound fair enough? Now, he's coming in going, look, I need to talk to my wife. Or what he's saying is, I need to talk to my wife so I don't make a really stupid decision and she mocks me and makes fun of me for years to come. That's what he's really thinking in his head, right? It's what's going to happen. He thinks about when he made a bad choice, and the wife's like, how did you do that for? You should have talked to me, whatever it may be. So now you can say, look, when you get this, when you get the result, then use a little bit of the money to buy him a gift, okay? To show, you don't have to rub it in that you were right. What you want to do is just go ahead. This is going to work for you, so when you get the money, then why don't you go buy that person a little gift because obviously they mean a lot to you. Sound fair enough? Okay, then stop talking. Okay, and then it's something like this, the first one that kind of talks loses at that point. But again, this is a good one to tie in if they're saying that they need to talk to a partner or a spouse. One of the most powerful closes is to ask what's the worst thing that can happen. Look, Mr. Customer, let's say you get the finance suite and I'm totally wrong and you don't get any money or credit at all. Would this really put you out of business? I mean, would this put you in the poorhouse? And this is even easier to use if you've talked to them about payments. Look, Mr. Customer, well, you get the finance suite and let's say I'm totally wrong. Okay, and you make your first payment, and that's it, and you realize I'm totally wrong. Would that really put you out of business? I mean, is that really going to put you in the poorhouse? Exactly. So, and then you go into a close. So think about this. This is just establishing what's the worst that can happen. Your brain is running a movie of all the bad stuff that's going to happen. Let's cut all that crap out and talk about worst case scenario. What's worst case? What if I'm totally wrong about this? Are you going to be put out of business because you paid this money? Is it really going to put you in the poorhouse? And almost anybody's going to say, well, no. Well, exactly. And then you can say, exactly. And keep in mind, 10 for me, 10 for my company, 10 for the product. Start building a powerful future pace case. Create a picture in their mind of massive benefits from doing business with you. Enjoying a home with their family, having their business become a massive success, being able to have the home, lifestyle, car, business, team of their dreams. Okay. Also remember that massive benefits don't just include the benefits of the finance suite. Let them know how else you can help them, what other things you can help them accomplish. So if you offer credit repair, point out that you can help in that area. Okay. This interrupts his decision-making strategy and minimizes all the damage they may be thinking about that the product doesn't work out. That's what you're doing. I say, look, Mr. Customer, what if I'm totally wrong? I mean, what do you really stand to lose? What, a couple grand? You're going to lose your first payment of $150 the first week or $500 the first month? I mean, what do you really stand to lose? Is that going to put you in the poorhouse? No, well, of course not. Okay, so now you're interrupting this pattern of them thinking of all the bad things that are going to happen, and they start to realize, well, there's really not a lot of bad stuff. Then you just start laying it on. Just boom, lay it on. Look, beyond this, I can help you fix your credit. We're going to be here for 5 years to come. You start laying on not just the benefits of the finance suite, but the benefits of doing business for you, the other products you offer, the other services, the other areas where you could be their expert. So all of a sudden, this teeter-totter goes heavily in the side of them losing more by not buying than actually buying. Box them in. This effectively boxes the client in because you undermine his two cornerstone buying beliefs. I don't buy from people and companies I don't know and trust. I don't buy unless the risk-reward ratio is heavily weighted in my favor. These are two of the main reasons people don't buy. We've already talked about trust and rapport. Now you're handling the other one. I don't buy unless the risk-reward ratio is heavily weighted in my favor. The client will never say this to you, but that's what they're thinking about. Okay, so asking what's the worst that can go wrong disrupts this pattern and inserts a new one that lowers his threshold for buying. So if the client says they have to speak with their partner or accountant, go back into that loop that I showed you. Listen, I understand you have to speak to your partner, but the beauty of this program is blank. So that's another one to answer that kind of objections. And then position it as the sort of decision they don't need to talk to their partner about. Look, you make this decision, you get $20,000 and your revenues increase, go buy them something nice, okay? Listen, I understand you have to speak to your partner, but the beauty of this program is that you get a $50,000 guarantee, right? Like, you're guaranteed that you're going to get at least $50,000, or we'll continue within the first 12 months, or we'll continue to work with you until you do that type of overcoming of objection. So looping an essential part of the presentation because it involves going backwards to resell the client on you, the product, and the company. It uses specific language patterns, as you've seen, to move the client closer to that sale. Now, in doing so, you're also going to be mentioning some power words, minimizers, justifiers, reframers, short, simple words and phrases that have powerful ability to persuade, influence, and motivate. Okay, and here's some. Virtually allows you to make bold claims without speaking in absolutes, protects you from legal standpoint too. So, for example, you wouldn't tell a client, all my clients make money, or all my clients get money from this. One, the client wouldn't believe you. Two, it isn't true. So virtually all my clients are having success with this. Virtually all my clients are getting $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or more is more believable, legally defensible. So use virtually and speak instead of speaking in absolutes. Only. Only is a great minimizer, especially when associated with price. Okay, so it's only $39.95 sounds better than it cost $39.95. So use that only when you're mentioning price. Because one of the I was doing some research, and because is one of the biggest words that people like most in their brains. It's like, I don't remember the exact study, but there's a lot of reasons you use the word because. I recommend using it often. It's a justifier. It provides a reason that causes people to think differently about what you're asking for. Use because when you need to justify that you're asking for and why you need it. Okay, and the copy machine example is they did a study. And I can't even pronounce that, the Caldini copy machine experiment, where they had people in line, and somebody went to the first person at the front of the line and said, look, I really need to cut in line because of this. And what they found was that no matter what happened after because of this, statistically the majority of people let them cut in line. Like, they would come out and go like, just because I'm in a hurry, because I need this fast, because I just don't want to wait. And people would still let them cut in line because it's a very powerful justifier. Cash outlay or investment or reframers. It gets a client not to look at cost in a different way. Say my product doesn't cost anything, it's a cash outlay or it's an investment. Okay, so I always do that. I always use investment versus cost because it's an investment. You're investing in your business. It's not costing you anything if it makes you money. And I use this argument with marketing all the time. Does it really cost you something? If you spend $100 on a marketing piece and you get $1,000 in return, did it really cost you anything? In my mind, it didn't. You got a 100 or 1,000% return on that. So it's just a matter of, in this, the finance suite, this is an investment. So treat it as an investment or cash outlay instead of cost. Offsetting language patterns. Hold your hand every step of the way. These are good things you can use. Show you the ins and outs. We're going to show you the ins and outs of how your business credit works, how to get it done. Huge upside with little downside. Look, Mr. Customer, you're getting a guarantee. I'm even allowing you to do this for payments, so I'm absorbing all the risk. So you have this huge upside of being able to get all this money and financing for your business, more than you've ever had access to before, and really no downside or very little downside. Incredibly easy to get started. Okay, and this is a good one you could use after you've done a 10-10-10 to get them into the actual buying. Hey, look, Mr. Customer, 10 for me, 10 for company, 10 for product. So look, it's incredibly easy to get started. It's just a matter of a little bit of information. I can get you going right now. Sound fair enough? In-depth training program. Look, Mr. Customer, don't worry if you don't know how to do this. We have an in-depth training program that's going to hold your hand and walk you through the step-by-step. This is a long-term relationship. Okay, it's something you want to say. They don't want to feel that you're just going to go away after the sale. It's a long-term relationship. I did this. When I was selling, I called my clients to follow up on a regular basis, okay, especially when they're making payments to you. You really should be doing this. So make sure they know it's a long-term relationship, not a short-term sale. It's surefire. Paint by numbers. Okay, it's easy. It's simple. Those are the kind of language patterns that you want to use. Powerful closing patterns. Believe me, if you do even half as well as the rest of the people who have gone through this program, you're going to be very, very impressed. This is one I actually use in closing. Believe me, if you do even half as well as my other clients, then you're going to love the amount of money and credit you're going to get access to. All I ask is that after you've made money with this, I want a ton of referrals. Sound fair enough? And I would go to my secrecy tone right here. Believe me, if you do even half as well as my other clients that have gone through this program getting money and credit, you are going to be in love with me. All I ask is that if you've made money with this, I want a ton of referrals, okay? Or, if you get a ton of money out of this, I want a ton of referrals. Sound fair enough? I immediately went into a secrecy tone, change it up, and now taking another attempt to close. Just a matter of a little bit of information. Let's get you going. Your wife will be kissing when you walk through the door. Your partner will give you the biggest pat on the back. This pattern knocks out the fear that loved ones will disapprove of the buying decision. Be realistic. It's one of their limiting buying beliefs. If I make a bad decision, I will be ridiculed by my spouse, my partner. Even though that probably wouldn't really happen, it's one of their concerns, so knock it out. Kids' school. If you do this, you'll be sending your kids to the finest schools. Okay, this is a powerful emotional pattern. Do not make statements like this if your product can't live up to it, which it can. Okay, but still, what you're wanting to say here is, hey, look, their kids are important. Look, you do this. Now you're able to grow the business that you've always wanted, and now you can send your kids to the best schools, get the best for your kids. Okay, I'm not getting rich here. This is very effective for closing referrals and building long-term relationships because it initiates that you aren't making money on the transaction or not a lot. I'm not getting rich here, but I know you're going to do really, really well with our program, and you'll give me a ton of referrals, and that's how my business grows. So let's get in. Let's get you started. It's just a matter of a little bit of information. Sound fair enough? So this is what you're saying. You may even want to make reference to this. Hey, look, I'm not getting rich here. Like, my objective isn't to make a bunch of money on you. I could sell this thing for $10,000. What I want to do is get you in here, make you happy, so you send me referrals. Okay, language patterns. There's also very powerful language patterns for this final close. If you do even half as well as the rest of the people that have gone through the program, I mentioned that. All I ask is that you give me one shot. Okay, and that's another one too. All I ask is that you give me one shot. If I'm even half right, then you're going to absolutely love the amount of credit and financing you get access to. I promise you will be very impressed. Not every. I did some misspellings here. I promise you, you will be very, very impressed. The only problem you'll have is I didn't call you 6 months ago and get you started then. Okay, believe me, you will not be sorry. Sound fair enough? So those are some other powerful language patterns that you could use for that final close. Okay, does it make sense to you? We talked about that. In asking that question, tonality is essential. Ask in a calm, curious tone. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? This is not a pattern to use with certainty. So you want to use it kind of curious, like you're curious when you're asking this. True beauty, we talked about that earlier. You see, the true beauty of the program is, and then it go on to describe how it will solve the client's problem. This is a beautiful transition, powerful deflection pattern. So true beauty is great. I use that a lot. Look, the true beauty of this is, especially during the close, if I'd been your financial and credit advisor for the last 3 years, helping you get money and credit to grow your business on a consistent basis, you wouldn't be saying, let me think about it overnight. You wouldn't be having this doubt. You wouldn't need to go talk to your partner. You wouldn't need to go talk to your spouse. Whatever their objection is relating to the reason that they can't buy now, then this is a good future pace. Look, if I had been the guy that got you money and credit for years now, okay, on a consistent basis, you got more and more and more credit and money, you wouldn't be saying that now, would you? No. Again, tonality is absolutely key here. Okay, as far as my company goes, and this is one of the things we talked about when it comes to actually addressing your company in the 10. This is an excellent transition from selling you to selling the company. I pride myself in doing this. So you talked about you as a 10, then you say, as far as my company goes, and then you say something about your company. I pride myself on doing that. I plan on being top producer of my company, whatever it is. So this is a good intro to the 10 on you. As far as my company goes, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And when it comes to me, well, I pride myself on helping business owners get money. It's my passion. Okay, so I'm not going to get there without my clients giving me tons of referrals because they love me. And as far as my company goes, then go on to say all the great things about your company. So these are just great ways to transition to the 10 on the company or you. What we can do for you besides this one transaction, we talked about this earlier. This should be presented more as a statement than an actual question. So find 3 things, which can include your upsells, that you could do for the client outside of this transaction. Maybe you help them with prepaid legal. Maybe you're an attorney, an accountant. Maybe you're doing credit repair. Whatever other things you can help them with, let them know that, okay? Because that's a good thing. Then they're thinking, well, man, this guy, it gives you more value that you can help them in other areas. And again, you're weighting the scale, so more bad things that can happen by them not buying. Wow, I'm not going to get this credit. I'm not going to get this financing. I'm not going to get this phenomenal system and finance officers for 5 years and advisors for 12 months. Now I lost you. And you could do what? You can help me with credit and prepaid legal and this, and I'll lose access to all that also. So now all of a sudden you're just tipping the scale more and more and more where they have more to lose by not buying than buying. Okay, great way to pre-frame your upsells and benefits. What's the worst that could possibly happen? Okay, the ultimate minimizer. It allows the client to run through all possible bad outcomes if the product doesn't work out and compares them to all the positive if it does. Address it. They're playing the movie in their mind. They're thinking this even though they're not telling you this. So address it. Address it once, twice, 3 times. Look, what's the worst that can possibly happen? And then go through. What, you're going to be out the money? Is that what you're worried about, spending the money and it not being what you thought it was? You just saw what it was. You know exactly what it was. It works for any business, yada, yada, yada. So what's the worst that can possibly happen? Let's them get out of the way. What are the worst things? Not what bad can happen. What, your spouse is mad at you, your partner. Get all that crap out of the way. What's the worst thing that could actually really happen? What, you lose out on the money? And then you're minimizing that. Like, it's no big deal. I mean, you're not going to get in a poorhouse because you lost out on this, right? And don't forget, you got a $50,000 guarantee. The guarantees we're going to get you the credit within 12 months, or we'll work with you until you do. Okay, we can start off small, and it's an effective pattern for minimizing some of the client's fears while setting the groundwork for doing more business in the future. Starting out small does mean lowering the price or offering payments, although it doesn't mean that. It means offering payments. So what I'm saying here is, hey, look, we can start off small. Like, if you have doubts and you don't know if this is going to work, well, then let's start you on a monthly payment plan. No big deal. $150 a week, we get you going. $150, you pay $300 now, $150 next week. You may pay next week's payment. We get you going. Okay, and what's the worst that could possibly happen? Okay, that's a no big deal tone. What's the worst that could possibly happen? No big deal. I'm absorbing all the risk here, okay? I'm giving you access, and then I'm going to let you pay me for months. Okay, why would I do that unless I wasn't positively sure that this would work for you? So let's start off small and then go from there. Grow a relationship from there. Great way to introduce payments. I understand what you're saying. great response to a person that says, let me think about it, or has any other kind of question or objection. It's just a great way to transition into the 10-10-10 for you, product, and company. Look, I hear what you're saying, but let me say this. It's also a great tool for demonstrating caring and empathy. I hear what you're saying, and then loop back to selling your client on you and the company and the product. If the client still wants to think about it after several loops, get a little stronger with your tonality. See, I understand what you're saying, but let me say this. There are 3 things that on your business, every factor is in your favor. And start using some closing patterns. Use scarcity and urgency. Look, Mr. Customer, I only let 5 clients come into this a month because I value our relationship so much. Don't lie, but use some limiting things there and create some scarcity. Look, Mr. Customer, this is perfect fit for you. There's nothing else like this that exists anywhere. This is it. This is, and I always use this because this is fundamentally what I believe. I believe that that success happens when opportunity meets preparation. You have an amazing opportunity here that's about to go poof, gone. When I'm gone, you're done. You're not going to find this anywhere else. There's only a limited amount of licensed people in this country that even have access to this kind of solution. So when I'm gone, when this conversation's done, poof, it's gone. Your chance to have access to this is gone. And you have an amazing opportunity to do this at a hugely discounted price, but only through today. And do payments today where it's completely affordable. So now you're creating scarcity. Look, you love it. Now it's going to be taken away. Getting started is very simple. Getting started is easy. It's just a question of some basic information. It's an excellent softer trial close. I go into every close the same way. Look, Mr. Customer, it's easy to get you started. It's just a matter of a little basic information. Tonality for closing. Getting started is very simple. If you do half as well, total certainty, you're going to be very, very impressed. Utter certainty. Sound fair enough? Reasonable man. Hey, I'm reasonable. You're reasonable. That sounds fair enough, right? Okay, so tonality is important beyond just using the actual words. Some final important tips, and we wrap this up. Listen twice as much as you speak. Run these patterns that we're talking about exactly as I laid them out. End with a great future picture, future pace. Look, Mr. Customer, you told me you wanted to accomplish this. Imagine if your business was this. Imagine what your business would look like with that $30,000. Imagine what your business would look like with $100,000 in a real usable credit. Imagine what your lifestyle is going to look like when you get to 50 grand, buy the 2 extra trucks you told me, and you're not actively on the road anymore, but have truckers working for you type thing. When you have that house, you will X. You will feel this way. Follow a script, okay? The straight line script I gave you isn't meant for the presentation, but you could still script your intro. You could script your closing. Record your calls and presentations, and always ask why they don't buy if they don't buy. Ask them, Mr. Customer, what's holding you back? Okay, we know it's a perfect fit. This is the only thing like this of its kind. It's within your affordability limits. Why wouldn't you buy this? You can always use that as a last-ditch effort to ask them why they don't buy. So that wraps it up. Hopefully, you got a ton of information from this today. Okay, a lot of info, enough for you to go back, play, stop. You could get the straight line script in your training step. It has some of this terminology on there, but I do recommend that you script your introduction or you script your interview process, your intelligence gathering, the thing we covered 2 weeks ago. You need to script these closes. You need to know your loops. Just have it done. Because think about it, how confident are you going to be when you go into a presentation and you have an effective script closing that's based on what I just told you? Effective language patterns that is designed psychologically to get into their subconscious, to dismantle their buying beliefs, to box them in and remove any barriers mentally of why they wouldn't buy. That's what this is designed to do. It's a very deep psychological approach to closing, where you're coming in, you're addressing the movie that's going on in their heads, you're controlling the movie that's going on in their heads, you're minimizing their objections, minimizing what they really have to lose, and saying things in a tonality that people can actually and want to actually buy. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to ask for questions. Any questions, comments, concerns that you have, put them out there, and we'll go ahead and get this wrapped up. I don't have any questions that were asked. It's either it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. So in parting, while I wait for final questions to come in, I will say make sure that you go into the back office tonight or tomorrow and look at this again. Replay this. If you haven't been through the last 2, then go through the last 2 weeks also. I'm not one to cry wolf. and I'm telling you that this series of 3 could be the most important 3 webinars that you'll ever attend, because it's not just about business credit. It's not just about the business finance suite. I use these exact same techniques to develop the most effective script I've ever had in credit repair, do a ton of business, and eventually sell my credit repair company. So this works in any single industry that you're in. So no matter what product that you're selling beyond business credit, even if this isn't your primary, you can use these same techniques to close. It is ridiculously effective. Well worth your time to go back to 2 weeks ago, figure out and go through the intelligence gathering exercise, go through the how to do an actual presentation last week, and then go back and touch on this again, write down some of the loops, make your own loops, look at the loops that are actually in the straight line script in your back office, and script your intro to the presentation, your closing of the presentation. Then the only thing you really need to get familiar and comfortable with is the presentation walkthrough of the finance suite itself. Then you can easily talk to anybody on the street, gather intelligence, get them into an effective presentation. You know how to present, and now you know the most effective tools to close. And if you do this, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to close everybody that's closable. It's that simple. There are people you'll talk to that aren't closable. They have no money, whatever it may be. They just absolutely won't close no matter what's said or done. But everybody that is closable, you're going to close. We've all been in that situation before where we're selling credit repair, and then one of our friends and family members and somebody else we talked to went and goes buy somewhere else. And we're like, I can't believe I missed that opportunity. Or somebody you present to doesn't close with you and closes somewhere else. It's not a feeling you want to duplicate. So this is why I mapped out exactly how you can efficiently close, giving you the language patterns, the actual tonalities to use, everything you need. Now it's just a matter of mapping out your close, mapping out your actual introduction, and then put those together with an effective presentation, and you're going to be a rock star. So no other questions. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to attend this webinar.